Hello, everyone. This is Leo. Today, I'd love to take you on a journey to Gran Canaria, an island where history, adventure, and unexpected connections come to life. This trip was a mix of everything. A wild boat ride on choppy Atlantic waves, complete with flying vomit, a trek through wind-sculpted sand dunes that looked straight out of a desert dream, and a road trip into the clouds. Along the way, I found myself caught between the legacies of two explorers, Christopher Columbus and Sanmao. One was the first European recorded to set foot in the Americas. The other was the first Chinese woman recorded to live in the Sahara. Both of them passed through this island, leaving their stories behind. So let me take you with me, through history, across oceans, into the dunes, and up to the highest peaks of Gran Canaria. Nino booked us a trip to Gran Canaria. "Where's that?" I asked, picturing some exotic, far-flung paradise. "Africa," he said confidently. "What?" For a brief moment, I imagined us dodging scorpions, riding camels, and bartering for spices in a souk. Until I realized something. The only time I'd ever heard of Gran Canaria was in stories of the Sahara by Sanmao. I had read about her wild, beautiful, and tragic life in the desert, her love for José, and their adventures in the vast golden expanse of the Western Sahara. But Gran Canaria? That was just a name in her story, a distant island she once called home. With our flights booked and bags packed, we left our part-time pet fox, who often visits our garden for gourmet leftovers, with an all-you-can-eat buffet, and headed to the airport. 4.5 hours later, we landed in Gran Canaria, which was still very much Spain. Just further south, warmer, more palm trees. I had braced myself for desert landscapes, but instead the island greeted me with colorful Spanish houses, wild cliffs, and the gusty Atlantic wind, like an overly enthusiastic handshake. We picked up our rental car and drove north along the motorway. 10 minutes later, we arrived at our accommodation, a studio on a steep little street called Goya. It was nearly 9 p.m., and I was so hungry I was seriously considering gnawing on the furniture. There was no time for faffing about. We drove a whole kilometer, an odyssey really, to the nearest restaurant, where I ordered grilled squid. And let me tell you, this was not your average rubbery, chew until your jaw hurts kind of squid. This squid was soft, flavorful, practically melting in my mouth like it had trained all its life for this moment. We loved the place so much that we came back 3 more times, because why risk disappointment when you've already found perfection? Sunday morning, I woke up unusually early, which is to say before noon. While sipping my coffee, I had a quick chat with my dad and sister. They told me about Big S, a Taiwanese actress who had passed away in Japan, leaving behind 2 young children. She was only 48. Life is unfair like that sometimes. Maybe that's why what happened next felt like more than just a coincidence. After breakfast, as I casually browsed my map app, something unexpected popped up. Chinese characters among all the Spanish. Sanmao's former residence. People from all over the world had come here, leaving beautiful and emotional reviews. Some quoted her words, and when I read, "不要问我从哪里来，我的故乡在远方," don't ask me where I am from, my homeland is far away, I felt a shiver run through me. Her former home stood quietly, with a tall palm tree in the garden. No grand museum, no flashing signs, just a simple patio with a chair. I imagined her sitting there, writing, reading, sipping coffee. Further down the road, we found a small playground called Sanmao's Corner. A ceramic painting on the wall showed how she had once taught children to paint pebbles during her time here. I sat by the sea, reading her words on my phone, staring out at the dark, basalt-rich beach. She had died at 47, just a year younger than the actress we spoke about earlier. And I couldn't help it. The tears came. We drove 20 minutes to Las Palmas, the island's bustling old town, to visit Casa de Colón, Columbus's former residence. Compared to Sanmao's modest home, Columbus's place was a palace. Grand, elegant, and filled with maps, ship models, and artifacts from his voyages. I imagined Columbus pacing these halls, plotting his journey west, convinced he was heading for Asia, unaware that he was about to stumble upon an entirely new world. Sanmao and Columbus. One crossed the ocean, one ventured into the desert. Both had lived on this island, and now so had we. Inspired by Columbus, we decided to set sail. Later in the week, we headed 45 minutes south for a whale and dolphin watching tour. Expectation, graceful dolphins leaping through the waves, majestic whales emerging from the depths, a life-changing encounter with nature. Reality, 4 hours of choppy waves and human suffering. For the first hour, everything was calm and pleasant. The sea stretched out endlessly, a peaceful blue. Then, suddenly, the captain got a call. There were dolphins somewhere out there. With zero hesitation, he slammed the throttle. The boat lurched forward. Waves crashed against us. Children screamed. Passengers clung to railings. The boat was bouncing so violently that the horizon itself seemed to tilt. And then, the first casualty. A small child vomited, then another, and another. It was a chain reaction. People pointed in all directions. "There!" someone shouted. "No, over there!" another argued. "Shark!" a child screamed. Meanwhile, Nino and I stayed silent. Not because we weren't excited, but because we were strategically avoiding airborne vomit. Priorities. We did see some dolphins. They were cute, but by then most people were too seasick to care. After being thoroughly inspired by Sanmao's tales of adventure in the Sahara, we decided to embark on our own desert expedition. Okay, fine. It wasn't technically the Sahara. It was Maspalomas Dunes, a rather convincing stretch of sand that really tries its best to look like a desert. But hey, when you're in Gran Canaria, this is as close as you're going to get without actually needing a passport, a survival guide, or an unreasonable tolerance for sunburn. And what's a desert experience without a camel ride? We arrived at the camel station, where the ships of the desert were patiently waiting for their latest batch of clueless tourists. The moment we climbed onto our noble steed, we realized something very important. Camels move like boats. After surviving a choppy boat trip earlier in the week, which involved unexpected ocean turbulence, a captain with a need for speed, and an impressive number of vomiting children, we were mildly concerned. Camel sickness. Was that a thing? It felt like a thing. As our camel lurched forward, its body swung left, right, like we were navigating a particularly slow-motion storm at sea. All we could do was hold on, try not to look too dizzy, and hope this wouldn't end with us. Midway through the ride, I felt something wet on my head. Now, there are many things one might expect while riding a camel: a scenic view, a gentle breeze, perhaps a moment of reflection. Head licking? Not on the list. I turned around. Behind me stood a camel with enormous, soulful blue eyes, looking at me with pure affection, or perhaps mild curiosity. She had licked my head. In some cultures, being licked by a camel is probably deeply symbolic, perhaps a sign of good fortune, spiritual awakening, or that you forgot to wash your hair that morning. Personally, I took it as an honor. After the ride, I returned the favor, not with my tongue, let's not be weird, but with a friendly head pat. She seemed to like it. What a lovely animal. Now, while my blue-eyed friend was a picture of grace and charm, the camel behind her was, shall we say, less diplomatic. This one had opinions, loud ones. Every few minutes he would let out a deep, dramatic, guttural noise. The kind of noise that said, "I did not sign up for this. I am far too important for this nonsense. I should be running in the wild, not carrying tourists on my back like a glorified Uber." The young girl riding him did not share my amusement. In fact, she spent the entire ride crying. This only seemed to encourage the camel, who continued his protest in surround sound, completely unfazed by her distress. If camels had sarcasm, this one was fluent. On another day, we took a long drive through winding mountain roads to see the crater of the volcano that formed this island. The crater was vast, rugged, a reminder of the island's fiery past. From there, we continued climbing towards the highest point of Gran Canaria. And then, rain? We were in the clouds. For a few surreal minutes, everything around us was misty and white. Then, 5 minutes later, the sun appeared, and the clouds drifted away like a curtain being pulled back, revealing a breathtaking view. Below us, the clouds stretched out like an endless sea of white. Were we standing on an island, or floating above the sky? On the way back, we stopped in a small village for lunch and ordered oven-roasted goat. When my plate arrived, I noticed something. A smooth white knee bone, oddly beautiful. Sculpted by time and nature like a work of art. I thought of Jose, Sanmao's husband, who had once gifted her a camel skull from the Sahara as a wedding present. Most people would have screamed. Sanmao? She loved it. I held the bone between my fingers and understood. Gran Canaria wasn't just another place on the map. It was a bridge between worlds, between continents, between past and present, between Columbus's discoveries and Sanmao's stories. As the waves crashed against the shore, I thought of her words once more. Don't ask me where I am from. My homeland is far away. Perhaps, like her, I was a wanderer at heart. And perhaps, like her, I would keep chasing stories, no matter where they led.